Holy get out of my face. That's a fucking 1v2, you little Oh, he's dead. Oh my goodness! He's dead too. Bro, that rapier damage.
So is this a Civil Spectre from, what the fuck is it? What the hell's that vampire game, man?
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Sounds just like him.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
How? Night. You tried that on!
Our flag was taken!
Yeah.
Enemy flag returned.
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed those clips. Now I'm going to go over the build in its entirety so that you guys can run it too and make whatever changes to it that you like. Alright, first let's start with the attributes. You can see I'm running 50 strength, 500 dex with the food buff, 25 intelligence, and 29 con. The reason I'm taking 50 strength instead of 100 is because we don't need this third milestone here. Physical damage, we're running Bolt Caster, so we're dealing electricity damage. We're shocking bitches like Hassan, okay? We don't need the physical damage buff because it's all electricity damage. We just need the 2 perks here for the light and heavy attack bonus. Dexterity, obviously we want at 500 because that's gonna boost our damage significantly and our bow damage, as well as our rapier damage. They both scale hard off dex. We're taking 25 int because we want the 3% damage increase to backstabs and random critical hits. This is basically one vicious perk. This is a critical hit damage bonus right here. And then we're taking 29 con. We obviously want the health consumable perk. If I could hit this without taking this, I would. But you'll see I have 16 points in here, and that wouldn't reach 50 con. So we put it into intelligence instead because that's helps the rapier scale some and gives me some more damage there for sure. Okay, now onto the gear. So for my gear, obviously we're running light armor, and that kind of centers around the attuned leather pants, right? So this is a medium leg wear, meaning that we are going to be running a medium hat and a light chest, light gloves and light boots as well, and that keeps us below 13 pounds running a light set. 2 of the biggest perks that we want on our gear are leeching and anointed lifesteal. We're stacking that 5 times for both, okay? I also chose to stack vigor 5 times, and the reason for that is because this build, you get tons of lifesteal if you're trading shots, but if you get hit by something hard that's going to deal a dot, and then you try to hide behind something, you need to re-peek it in order to lifesteal, otherwise you can die to the dot. So I stacked vigor so that wouldn't happen. I can't die to the dot. I don't have to re-peek just to lifesteal. That's what I chose to do. You could go with something more aggressive or something different. I thought about shirking heals, but after testing it, I only heal for about 1,000-ish on a roll. And when I'm healing for more on my autos, I just didn't see that as being all that useful, not over vigor anyway. So on my head, obviously on our gems, we're going to go sighted slash ward on both of our gem slots here. We're boosting the base damage of our ranged attacks, as well as taking slash damage, which is the primary source of physical damage in the game. The arcane conditioning on this is a dead stat, but Lifestealer's draw is really important. We're getting 15% lifesteal as long as we haven't taken a potion within the last 13 seconds. So this is boosting our lifesteal significantly, right? Vital synergy, we want that for sure on our chest. While health is below 50%, gain 15% stamina regen rate. While stamina is below 50%, incoming healing is increased by 15%. So this is like a bruiser stat, a little bit of a bruiser stat, a little bit of a brawling stat. Keeps us in the fight, right? Sturdy energy is also really good. While blocking, we gain, while we're below 30% stamina, we gain 25% stamina regen for 5 seconds. So that's big as well. On the gloves, we have Sacrificial Empowerment and Mortal Aggression. Sacrificial Empowerment is another big stat that we want to stack as many times as we can. I only got it 2 times on my gear, but considering everything else I got, it would have been nice to have it here instead of Arcane Conditioning. But with everything else I have, I don't really think that I could have stacked another instance of Sacrificial Empowerment. Mortal Aggression is also very good, especially for PvE, but it can also come into play when you are like in a 1vx scenario, like you guys saw in the first clip. On the regular, just the base perk is that you get 1.5% lifesteal on hits, which obviously this is a lifesteal build, we want that. But the big bonus is 7.7% on all those stats. Of course, at 800 gear score, I think it would be 7.8. But anyway, you get max health, stamina, fortify, and empower for 8 seconds after a kill. So that can be big, like I said, in those 1v2, 1v3 scenarios. Your tuned leather pants, obviously we know we're getting +9 attributes, +9 to all attributes here. Like I said, I have vigor on this. It only had another defensive slot, so we're going anointed lifesteal, and it has shirking energy, another big stat for this build. If a hit is avoided by dodging, while in a light or medium equipped load, gain 16 stamina. We want all the stamina we can get because we're going to be dipping, diving, ducking, and dodging, you know, all that stuff in dodgeball. We need that. Next, we have our boots here. We have sacrificial empowerment, like I said, and prolonged favor. Prolonged favor is another decent stat, another decent thing to stack. Increase the duration of limited duration buffs on self by 10% at 800 gear score anyway. And you can stack this up to 5 times. You only really need one instance of this. I mean, you don't really need it at all, but like it's nice to have one. You don't need to stack it too many times. This is already effective as is. But yeah, those are pretty good boots for us as well. Boltcaster, obviously, you guys know what the Boltcaster does. It converts your damage to lightning damage on both weapons and increases lightning damage on basic attacks by 20%, which is real big. We took Keenly Jagged. You can take Keenly Jagged in any offensive slot. It doesn't have to be in the weapon, but we want Keenly Jagged because we have the perk in the bow tree where we deal more damage to debuffed enemies. So we want our debuffs, our bleeds to last longer so that we can deal more consistent, higher damage. We also have lightning harnessing. We stacked lightning harnessing. You'll see it on the boots as well, as high as we could before overdoing the empower cap. So that's the reason why I don't have more lightning harnessing. The power damage cap is 50%. So we didn't want to go over that because then it would just be wasted stat. On our rapier, we have Sundering Riposte and Leeching Flurry. The Leeching Flurry is huge. You definitely need that on this build. You're getting a huge amount of lifesteal from your flurries. And then the Riposte, if you can hit them with a Riposte before and you have Sundering Riposte, going to inflict rend, reducing armor on the target by 30% for 8 seconds. That is also huge. So we're just going to deal a massive amount of damage with our flurry, and we're going to get a massive amount of lifesteal from it as a result. We went with Electrified Opportunities on the gem. We're getting plus 16 damage against targets below 50% health, and hits inflict surge, dealing 8% lightning damage per second for 2 seconds. So obviously we wanted the lightning version because all of our damage bonus is lightning. So that's going to further increase the damage we're getting even on that dot. We also have Disdained Infliction. This isn't a BIS slot necessarily, but it is still good for us. Potency of outgoing dots are increased by 15%. Hitting target inflicted by your dots will extend the duration of them by 5%. Second part doesn't matter so much, but obviously we're getting increased potency of the dot. That dot is lightning. That is also buffed by the rest of our build. So all of that is nice increase in damage for us. And then last we have Shock Attunement. Successful hits deal 14%, you guessed it, lightning damage to the target. So that's very good rapier for us. The amulet, stop, drop, and roll down there is a pretty dead stat for us, but stamina recovery is not. Stamina recovery is good. We like that. When you are hit while below 50% health, gain 39 stamina. Does not trigger off persistent damage, dot effects, or blocked attacks. So obviously, like I said, we want stamina from all sources we can get it on this build, and this is going to be another source of that if we get hit while we're below 50% health. Again, we have a stack of vigor on this because we want to 5-stack vigor. I have penetrating rapid shot on this. Obviously, it is better to put weapon skill perks on the weapon itself, but the Boltcaster does not have a weapon skill slot, so it cannot slot any weapon skills. So we put this on our amulet here so that we can at least gain a slight penetration bonus on our rapid shot. Then we have obviously Slash Horde. Like I said, that is a huge defensive bonus for us. The majority of most physical damage in the game, especially from mobs, but also from players, comes from Slash. So, or melee damage, I should say. Melee damage, the majority of all melee damage is Slash. So that's why we chose that. Our ring, huge. Down here we have Cursed Enchantment, you'll see, as a fixed stat. Increase basic attack damage dealt by 10%, but decrease ability damage by 5%. So essentially, we are gaining 10% on our autos to lose 5% on our skills, but that is definitely a worthy trade-off for a bow. That is a very good stat. The ice damage obviously is a dead stat. We don't like that. Unscathed Empowerment is not bad. Melee light attacks grant 1 stack and melee heavy attacks grant 2 stacks of 5% of power for 8 seconds for every hit you deal without taking damage. Max stack 6, taking a hit will remove the empower and increase that instance of damage by 15%. So this is huge while we're using our rapier. We're gaining more damage, more empower while we're using it. Pretty big. Then we have enchanted, of course. This is increasing our base, light, and heavy attack damage. Base damage, not empower damage. Since we hit the empower cap with lightning, we needed other things to invest into. Enchanted goes very well with cursed enchantment on the ring, so that is why we chose that. Pretty big for that. And then we have our last stack of leeching on the ring, since all of our armor have both leeching and anointed lifesteal. But when we have the pants only have defensive slots, so we could not slot leeching. Leeching is an offensive, anointed lifesteal is a defensive perk. Lastly, we have our earring. Refreshing recovery, we definitely like that. When your health drops below 50%, all of your abilities cooldowns are reset. Huge for us, obviously. That's what we like. That's what we want. It allows us to brawl more, stay in the fight. I mean, you can kind of see what's going on there. Anyway, we have Slash Ward, like I said, huge defensive perk right there. Energizing Evade Shot. This is another source of energy in our build. So when we hit an evade shot, we get 11 stamina and increases stamina to regen by 15% for 4 seconds. Huge. That's what we want. And our last stack of vigor right there. I think I said our last stack was up here somewhere, but obviously our last stack is down here on the earring. And then lightning harnessing. This is our other stack of lightning harnessing right here to keep us from going over the empower cap, but still giving us as much empower damage as we can get. We're right up. I think it's at like, according to New World Buddy, it's at like 48% empower. So we're getting a lot of empower damage here. All right, for skills, this is what we're taking. We have evade shot. I'm not gonna go too in depth on this stuff, guys. You can read it for yourself, but we want the stagger on the evade shot for sure. And then we get the haste if we hit it as well. After dodging, we definitely want the haste. Hitting a foe with a debuff grants 5 stamina. Like I said, we want our foes to have debuffs because we took this as well. Deal 10% more damage to foes suffering from a debuff. So both these are going to work together pretty well. Debuff durations last 20% longer. You can see how useful that is too, considering what I just said. Rate of arrows. This is huge for us. It's an AoE, and since we are on a lifesteal build, we are going to heal from all the damage that we do to everybody in this AoE. This rain of arrows is huge. Even if you only hit one target, it's also unblockable. So it's like so good on this build. Then we get the bleed, obviously, and the slow. But rain of arrows is what you want. You could swap it out for explosive arrow, and I've been thinking about messing around with that. But whatever you do not swap it for penetrating shot, guys, okay? Look at the damage that you get from rain of arrows. 150% weapon damage, okay? Then you get an extra 9% weapon damage on the bleed, right? And that doesn't matter. That's not damage. It's just slow, right? So you are getting 150% weapon damage, then 9% weapon damage over each second for 12 seconds, okay? Which is, round about another 100% weapon damage. I'm too stupid to do the math quickly, but you get the point. This is 150% weapon damage. You have to think of this in a single target sense, because the chances that you're going to line up multiple targets, this is going to happen like one every, I don't even know how many times. Like, this is not going to be a common occurrence for you to line up multiple targets, okay? And even if you are able to line up multiple targets, it's almost never going to be more than 2. Like, that's just not realistic at all. Whereas this being a AoE circle, you can regularly get more than one person in it. But anyways, think about the penetrating shot in a single target point of view when you add the damage up, because that's the only thing that you can consistently rely on. 150% weapon damage, right? Penetrating shot deals 10% increased damage after each hit, which is to secondary targets. That's not going to be used on the first hit. You can't rely on this. And then deals 15% more base damage to targets 20 meters or more away. This you can rely on, obviously, if you're shooting it far. 150%, another 15%, 165%. What I say here, we have 150%, and then we get 9% each second on the bleed for 12 seconds. This is almost always going to be more damage than penetrating shot. Almost always, as long as you take the first 2 perks, okay? And in this lifesteal build, where it's easy to get a bunch of people inside the rain of arrows, this is going to be much more valuable for you to use than a penetrating shot. I I don't know. Maybe there's some hidden tech. I am fresh back to the game. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not saying I know everything by any means. If there's some tech with the penetrating shot, let me know in the comments below. But as far as I can read here, you like would never want to take this unless you're going for some like meme This is always going to be better. Rain of arrows. Okay. Then we're taking rapid shot. Obviously, rapid shot is a really good ability. You just need space in order to use it. 100%, 100%, then 125 in the last arrow. All 3 arrows hit the same target. Rapid shot's cooldown is reduced by 15%, or 50%, yeah. Really good at PvE, this specific perk. It's not as reliable in PvP, pretty hard to hit all 3 on one target. Normally they would die anyway with this much damage, but you never know. And then the 3rd arrow of rapid shot deals 25% more base damage. Obviously we want that, so we're gonna take these 2 regardless. Then we have 10% more base damage to foes at least 10 meters away. Obviously you want that on every bow build. Deal 15% more base damage to targets below 50% health. Obviously we want that for sure. Heavy attack arrows fly faster and deal 10% more damage. Honestly, the biggest part of this perk is the flying faster. 10% more damage is great too. But you definitely want projectiles to fly as fast as possible, which is why we are taking this one as well. That increases the distance that arrows travel before being affected by gravity by 100%. That's nice. And increased critical chance of bow shots by 10%. Since our crits are important for damage, obviously we want to take that too. You can switch this up a little bit for PvE. This perk is really good for PvE. This perk is also really good. If I could take one more perk in the tree, I would take this one, but being that headshots are a low percentage reliability, you can't really rely on hitting headshots against competent players. And I know I see the headshot builds on YouTube, I see the damage, all that shit. Look, if you are fighting competent players, you cannot reliably hit headshots. It is just not going to happen. In any case where you are reliably hitting headshots, you are fighting against less than average players. That is just the truth. You can be Shroud. I don't care who you are. You're not hitting consistent headshots on players that know how to play the game. That is just the truth. Sorry, that's how it is, which is why you also don't want to take this over this. Empower for 15% for 5 seconds after dodging. And by the way, when you compare these two, unless there is something that I am not seeing, which there might be, comments down below. I am, like I said, fresh back to the game. Let me know. But this is a 20% damage increase when you land a headshot. This is a 15% empower for 5 seconds after dodging. So this you can get without having to hit anybody with anything by dodging. You can have this uptime technically all the time. You can have 15% empower, which is going to be a increase in damage, right? And this is a 20% increase in damage only if you hit the head. So an extra 5% damage than the other side, but only if you hit the head. I can't see why you would want to take this unless, like I said, you're doing some meme build where you're trying to just like maximize headshot damage, which cool, great, awesome. But if you are fighting players that know how to play the game, have fingers, aren't drooling all over their keyboard, chances are that you're going to use this perk because it's much more reliable. Now let's go to the rapier. On the rapier, we are obviously taking flurry. That's a huge part of our build. It's going to be a 5 quick hit thrust for 60% weapon damage each. And this ability has grit. That is also huge for the build. Grit means that we cannot be staggered by incoming attacks, right? And that's what we want. We are free to hit whatever is in front of us and lifesteal up on it with our leeching flurry and our lifesteal build. Each flurry does 25% more block damage. Each hit of flurry reduces the cooldown by 5%. Each hit of flurry extends the rapier's bleed by 1%. And then the last one, finalized, the last hit of flurry will inflict the enemy with a stack of bleed, dealing 10% bleed damage per second for 10 seconds. That's a big one that synergizes with flourish and finish. Also taking light edge here, increased base damage from both middle swipe attacks and the light attack chain. You could probably drop this for something else if you wanted to, but it's nice to have. Free damage. Flourish performs an attack dealing 60% weapon damage and staggering and pushing back enemies. That's actually a really big part of this. It's really good for canceling stuff. Reactivating this ability or using basic attack at the end of flourish will perform the follow-up attack finish. Finish lunges forward, dealing 120% direct weapon damage and consumes all rapier bleeds on any target hit dealing 110% of their damage immediately. So here you go. We're putting a bleed with the last hit of Flurry onto the target, and then it is popping that bleed with finish, right? And since we want this, we are taking all of this because you have to. Gain grit on both flourish and finish. Like I said, grit is huge on this because it allows us to lifesteal without being able to be displaced. Gain 20 stamina when successfully hitting a target with finish. When Tondo's bleeds, this does not matter. We are not taking Tondo. This literally is just a dead perk, but we want this. Finish deals 150% Rapier's bleed damage instead of only 110. So the pop on the last hit of Flurry dealing the bleed, when we pop, flourish, and finish, it is going to pop harder. You can take evade instead of riposte, and I will tell you in what scenarios you might want to. Riposte is generally better against lower skilled opponents because even if they hit your riposte, if they dodge, they will be missed by the follow-up stun, the strike of the riposte. Okay. Also, better players, once they figure out once they realize you are using riposte, they will bait it out. They will not just auto you like idiots, knowing that you have this ability. They're going to try to bait it out from you. Evade is probably better in the majority of scenarios, but riposte, I feel, is better against less than average players, maybe even a little bit above average players. If you can catch them on a riposte, especially with the Sundering Riposte Rend, it sets you up for a huge flurry with a shit ton of damage, and it's going to be a lot of lifesteal. So that's why I run it. You can run evade, whatever you like, but I like riposte. We are taking, if it successfully hits, gain in power, increasing damage by 10% for 3 seconds. Another great perk here before we go into Flurry. Reduce cooldown of other rapier abilities by 20% when landing riposte counter attack, and increase the stun from riposte to 2.5 seconds. Obviously, if you're taking riposte, I don't know how you don't take this whole tree because this last one is huge. Gain 3% haste for 4 seconds on rapier hits, can stack up to 5 times. Deal 10% more base damage when your stamina is below 40%. Gain 3 stamina on hit. Critical strikes reduce all cooldowns by 5%. So all those perks are what we're taking. This is kind of just, I don't know, that's kind of a meme. You start a fight, you deal 10% more damage. We're starting fights with bows though. Once we get hit, we're not going to be dealing that extra damage because it's only while our health is full. I don't know. In my opinion, these are the skills to take on the rapier. Change it up how you like, but that is my take. Last, I will talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this build and some things you can do to maybe make it better. So the 2 things that this build struggles with is other high damage range builds, especially with dots, which is, like I said, why I want to stack Vigor to avoid taking a lot of damage from those dots. Because obviously, while you are trading damage, you are okay, but when you are not trading damage, it starts to become a problem because you are in light armor, you are very squishy, you need to be able to put damage out in order to get the lifesteal back. And you do get plenty of lifesteal back, but if you can't put any damage out, then that doesn't matter. The other thing that really is dangerous for this build are the guys that chose Turbo Virgin when they first booted up the game and the game asked them what class they wanted to run. The guys stacking a crazy amount of con and running crazy amount of CC, stuff like that on Flail, Sword and Shield, Great Hammer, Battle Axe, or Great Axe rather. If you let those guys get close to you, they can definitely kill you faster than you can kill them. Even if they're full stacked on con, it makes no sense whatsoever. I know, but that's what the game is right now. And the last one that really sucks to fight is the blunderbusses, especially with a fire staff that will just burn out directly into your face and then start aim locking onto you and hit scanning you for all of their pellets, which is a super great addition to the game. I am so happy that AGS decided to add a aim lock feature into the game so that people wouldn't have to cheat. Then nobody has to cheat. You just use the in-game aim lock and it's all fair, right? holy crap, I don't know what they're doing with that. I've seen motherfuckers curving bullets like it's wanted and capture the flag and in arenas. It's crazy. I don't know what the logic was behind that. I heard that when it was being talked about, they said, no, don't worry, it's not going to be in PvP. When it was in beta, they said, no, don't worry, it's not going to be on launch in PvP, and then they launched it and it's PvP. I don't know, guys. Somebody help me out with this. What is going on with that? AGS, please. But anyways, those are the 3 biggest weaknesses to this build, so definitely watch out for those. In terms of things that can make this build better, you could, if you have it, run a Spectral Wrath Ring, which I believe is attained from the Gorgon raid. The infix on it is while enraged, all attacks gain 20% lifesteal while below 70% health. So obviously you're going to gain a huge amount more of lifesteal as long as you're below 70% health, which is huge for us on this build. It is part of the enraged set, so you get that first enraged set perk as well. Hitting a target within 13 meters grants stacks of enrage, increase outgoing damage by 1%, but also increase damage taken by 0.5% per stack. So you're basically gaining 50% more damage than your opponent is gaining on you, which is huge. It's that is a really good ring if you have it. Of course, you will also get enchanted, which can be changed on the ring, and unscathed empowerment, which is a fixed stat, just like the ring that I have. But the issue with that is cursed enchantment. You won't have cursed enchantment, or at least I guess you can roll it on the random perk. That would be incredibly lucky if you got that. But cursed enchantment is a huge stat here, so you would have to take that into consideration. The other another piece that could make the build potentially better is the old crown. I chose not to run the old crown because the pieces that I got here between my pants and my helm, I would not have been able to run the extra vigor stack if I had swapped it around the other way and ran the old crown and then put on the pants that I would have had to slot here instead. Also, you aren't able to hit 2 of the attributes first milestone perk, meaning see, I have the first perk here in intelligence and the first perk here in constitution. You wouldn't be able to do 2 of those. You'd only be able to do 1 of those, I believe. I also have my dexterity capped for the seasonal food. I'm not using banana pudding because I have tons of the event food, sorry, is what I meant, from a while ago. Right here, it's 39% or 39 dex instead of 44. You could maybe get a little bit more stat out of a little bit more efficiency if you ran banana pudding, but that is going to be more expensive for you to do. And then the last thing that could make this build potentially better is a close quarters bow like the one I put here, Obstructor's Pierce. Close quarters is going to deal increased damage to targets within 10 meters. You're going to deal 20% extra damage, but you also receive 5% increased attacker base damage, which of course we are willing to take that trade-off. The issue with that though is, keep in mind, if you are doing that, we are no longer dealing elemental damage with the bolt casters, or the bolt caster, I should say. And you would want to take 50 more points into your strength, bump that up to 100 to get the maximum efficiency out of your bow damage here. And if you do that, then you can't really put any points anywhere else down here. I don't think. It's just going to be strength and dex for the most part. So that is something to consider there. But I'm sure there's other ways to edit the build. Let me know if you guys find any, or if you try any of the ways that I already said. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really curious to hear if you guys do anything interesting with my build. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe and leave me some feedback down below. And I'll see you all in the next one.